Hi, it's Carly McAvoy. I'm working on number 11 through 16 of the final from fall of 24. Could be different numbers in different quarters, but the problem should look the same. And I've written the problems that I'm going to work out at the top, and then we're going to work them out below. So for the first one, for number 11, we're going to distribute that -3 through the first set of parentheses, and then distribute the 4 through the second set of parentheses. All of these problems have the directions to simplify, which means do as much as you can on them. You're not going to find out what x equals, you're just simplifying them to look simpler. So to start off with, we're going to distribute that -3, and that makes -6x, and then negative negative makes +12. 4x and 4 times 5 is 20. Again, that's a minus. The next thing we're going to do is combine our like terms. And the like terms here are the x terms, -6, +4, and -12x. And remember that the sign of that comes with it. So if there's a plus in front of it, it comes along. If there's a minus in front of that, it's going to come along. And now once we have those kind of grouped together, you don't have to write this step out, but if you're not good at algebra, I would suggest that you do it. And then you're going to combine up the x's, and you're going to combine those constant terms as well. And so when you have -6 and +4 minus 12, that's going to give you -14x. Remember, the x doesn't change, it just as the value stays the same. And then we have 12 minus 20, which is -8. In the second one, this problem can be worked out using the FOIL method, which is first, outside, inside, and last. And so if we think about our first terms, that first is the first one in each parentheses. So x and x times x is x squared. And then we're going to do outside and inside. And I put these on the same line because you can see that our final product are like terms. So those are the things we're going to end up adding together. The outside terms are the ones on the very outside of this parentheses and the very outside of that parentheses. So x times +3 is 3x. And the inside are the ones that are on the inside of this problem, the -9 and the x. And when we multiply that, we get -9x. Finally, we have last, and the last is the last one in this set and the last one in that set. -9 times 3 is -27. Final step would be to combine like terms. Our x squared term, there's nothing else like that in there, and our -27, there's nothing like that in there. But the outside and inside terms are like terms. We have +3 and -9, which makes -6x. Number 13 starts off looking like a binomial to the second power. And up here you can see I already wrote that that's the same as saying x minus 4 times x minus 4. There is a nice shortcut for this, but it's not easy for students to remember. The FOIL method will work just fine. So that's how I suggest that you do it. Again, our first terms are x times x. That's going to be x to the second power. And that is because this is x to the first power and x to the first power. And you add those powers together to get 2. Our inside and outside terms are going to be next. Outside is the outside, on the outer edges of the problem, the x and the -4. And the inside are the inside of the problem, the x times -4, and both of those are going to be -4x. Those are like terms, so we don't want to forget about those. And then finally, our last terms here are -4 and -4, which makes 16. And so if I add up my like terms, the only thing that are like terms are right here in the middle. I don't have anything else that's an x squared. I don't have anything else that's a constant. When I add those together, I have the x squared. I have -4x and -4x to make -8x, and I have that +16. Number 14 is a similar type of problem, but you're going to FOIL, and then you're going to multiply that result by 3 to get your final answer. So looking at the F, we have 2y times y, which is 2y squared. Then looking at the O and the I, the outside is 2y times -2x, which is -4xy. And the inside is -5x times y, which is -5xy. And then the last, in this case, is going to be -5x times -2x. That's -2 times -5 is +10, and x times x is x squared. Now, in this case, we also have to remember to distribute. Well, let me just say how I got what's in the inside the parentheses here. 2y squared is one of the terms. -4xy and -5xy is how I got -9xy, and then the +10x squared each of those is separate because none of those variables and their powers match exactly. And now I'm going to take 3 times 2 and 3 times -9 and 3 times 10 to get my final answer, which is going to be 6y squared minus 27xy plus 30x squared. So FOIL and then multiply that through at the end is how I would do it. There's more than one way to do these. So this problem right here is division problem. What this says is that -7y squared has to be divided into each of these terms on the top separately. So if I write that separately, it looks like this. I have 14y squared over the denominator, negative 21y to the 6 over the denominator, and 7y squared over the denominator. Now, if I simplify each one of those, the fractions just work like fractions. 14 over 7 is 2, you know that. And that one positive, one negative makes that -2. 21 divided by 7 is 3. That's just working regular old fractions or division, however you want to think about it. But notice I have a negative here and a negative there. That's how I got a positive in that case. And then 7 divided by -7 is -1. As for the variables, you just subtract your exponents and keep the base the same. So we have y x minus 2, 8 minus 2, sorry, and then y 6 minus 2, and then y 2 minus 2. And we're going to simplify each of those subtraction problems, and that's going to give us -2y to the 6th, 3y to the 4th, and -1y to the 0. But y to the 0 just means 1. So we don't need to write that, and the final answer should look like this, because we don't need to have y to the 0 hanging around in our answer. It's just detritus. So if you see y to the 0, that's just saying -1 times 1, which is just -1. Number 16, you're going to do it the same way. First thing you're going to do is separate each of those terms in the numerator, divide by the denominator. Secondly, you're going to simplify each of those. First of all, -12 divided by 6 is -2. 24 divided by 6 is 4. 18 divided by 6 is 3. Be careful of the signs as you go through there, and then subtract your exponents. 12 minus 3, 3 minus 3, and 4 minus 3. The next thing you're going to do is simplify that, and that is going to be 9, 0, and 1. But again, we don't need to show b to the 0 because that's just times 1. And we don't need to show b having a power of 1. Every time we have something like x or y, we know it's a power of 1. So it's not necessary to say that. So your final answer looks like this: -2b to the 9th plus 4 minus 3b. And that would be it. So those are the problems that you should be prepared to do things like that on your final. Have a great day.